Hey everybody, this is Rich Zimbalist, and today we're going to talk about something a little different than what I've ever discussed before. For those of you that have ever heard me lecture either on CE Wire or maybe potentially at a conference, I typically am a one-trick pony. I typically talk about retinal vascular disease, carotid occlusions, retinal vascular occlusions, that sort of thing. This is something else that is really near and dear to my heart, and that's technology and basically your optometry practice's website. So today we'll talk about the different features that go into creating a nice website for your practice. We'll talk about Google Analytics, search engine optimization, and a lot of other different components that are helpful to make your website be a good representation of your practice. Before we go any further, I have one giant, huge disclosure to talk about. I am the owner of Ignite Medical, which is a website development company that focuses on websites and search engine optimization, social media management, all that fun stuff. I do work with a lot of optometrists across the country, so this is something I'm disclosing from the get-go. The purpose of this discussion and this talk today is by no means to get you to sign up with my company or for you to abandon ship with whoever you're with and come join me. That is not the intention by any means whatsoever. The sole purpose of what I'm going to talk about today is so that if you run your own website or if you do work with a company currently, these are different things that you can help focus on with your current setups to improve your own personal practices, search engine optimization, to improve your social media, and to improve your overall online visibility. So, during the course of this presentation, I will not make any mentions whatsoever to my company. I do need to disclose that from the get-go, however. So during the course of the talk, we'll talk about a few different things as we've kind of just mentioned already. First off, we'll talk about your practice's website and how to maximize your patient's experience, both online through search engine optimization, through mobile devices, and so forth. We'll talk about the anatomy of the search engine's results page. So when you're talking about stuff like Google and Bing and Yahoo, these are all different search engines, and basically a lot of them have very similar characteristics in terms of how they're laid out. So we'll talk about the basic anatomy of those. We'll also talk about the basics of search engine optimization, or SEO as it's known, and then lastly about keyword selection and placement as it relates to search results and something called pay-per-click marketing. The number 21%. Does anybody know what that translates into? Okay, if you're raising your hand, you can actually put your hand down. I do encourage audience participation, but that's not kind of the whole purpose of this online webinar. Plus, you might look a little silly if you're raising your hand at home by yourself. Anyways, I digress. That's enough messing around with that stuff. 21% is a really important number that came across in a survey in 2017. And basically what this study found was that a company called Marketing Ninjas determined the click-through rate, meaning that if your website was ranked the top rank on Google's search, you had a 21% chance of someone clicking through on your link to your website. If you were in second place, you had a 10% chance, and third place was 8% chance. Now, overall, you're talking about 34% of clicks right there in the first three results. That is huge because you can only imagine that if you're not on that first page, how much worse your click-through rate is going to be and how many visitors you're not going to have onto your website. This was only one study, and frankly, Google is a little hush-hush in terms of how they develop their algorithms and their actual click-through rates and so forth. But this is the information that I found that's probably the most best representation of the online practices. So that really kind of comes into this next slide, and I used to love watching Talladega Nights when I was a little bit younger, but there was a quote in there that really just rang true with me when it came to search engine optimization and website management and so forth. It's the old Ricky Bobby, if you ain't first, you're last. And this could not be any more true. If you are not on the first page of your Google for certain keyword results, say optometrist in Los Angeles, California, or whatever your search results and keywords are trying to be, if you are not on the first page, you're not going to get any clicks. So what are the basics for your website? Well, I got them listed here for you. You need to have your location information listed, such as your address. You need to have your contact information listed, so your phone number, your address, maybe even some sort of chat feature, which are available now for many websites. You need to have a logo present. you're going to have a lot more patients that'll possibly remember your logo as opposed to just the name of your practice because of the visual component of it. One really crucial thing is to have the services that you offer. So for example, if you're a dry eye practice, you don't want to just put "we treat dry eye" on your homepage and call it a day. You want to have different services that you offer on different pages. So you want to have one page that talks about just general dry eye. One will have a page about meibomography. One might have a page about LipiFlow. One may have a page on the Bruder mask. All these different services that your practice offers are really important for the patient to know, so they may have an idea of what they're kind of getting into before they come to your practice. People also really love to see that information because it makes them feel empowered. They have this expectation and an understanding of what you can do for them before they even come in the door. So people really like that from a patient standpoint. The other really important thing that's good for your site is your doctor credentials and your staff directory. I can't tell you how many times that I've been to a doctor and before going, I Google them, right? That's what everyone does nowadays. So I went to go see Dr. Smith. What do you think I did? I typed in Dr. James Smith into Google, and I found out what medical school he went to, where he did his residency, where he did his fellowship, and I want to make sure that he's really well trained before I trust myself to go to him. You can be sure that your patients are doing the same exact thing for you, so you need to have that information on your website. A good user experience is crucial for your website, and that's why this is highlighted in red, including and as well as the mobile responsive. If a patient goes to your website and they can't navigate it properly and they get frustrated, they're going to leave. It's that simple. So you need to have a website that is easy to navigate and easy for people to understand. The last thing is mobile responsive. Now, as you may have heard, Google actually rolled out this mobile first indexing about, I think it was several months ago, back in April, I think, of 2018. And what it basically determined was that they used a website's mobile appearance and whether it was mobile safe and mobile responsive to determine if it was going to rank well in their search results. This is really important. So if you have a website that is not mobile responsive and it doesn't work well on a mobile phone or a tablet, you're going to see a significant drop in your search rankings compared to a year or two ago in particular. So a little bit about the mobile first indexing. You know, this is just some recent stats that I pulled up not too long ago, but you probably wouldn't be surprised that about 52% of worldwide searches are now from a cell phone or mobile phone. This next one really kind of floored me, that people spend over 5 hours a day on their smartphone. That's incredible. Now, they didn't break it down into teenagers versus adults and geriatrics and so forth, but you can imagine just how often we're actually touching our phone every day, checking our email, and so forth. And kind of along those lines, they were saying that 75% of Americans actually use their email, or smartphone rather, to check their email most often, which is pretty incredible. 'Cause I know I do that all the time also. The last thing that's really important from an optometry practice standpoint is that the mobile searches for best or near me have grown significantly in the past several years. So just think about this even. Last time you went to order pizza and you maybe wanted to try someplace new. What'd you type in Google? Best pizza, Columbia, Missouri, or pizza, Columbia, Missouri, or pizza near me. These are the search terms that are becoming more and more prevalent and the things that you need to really focus your keywords on for your website to ensure that you're coming up in the higher ranks. So I want to show you two different websites. One is one that I just started working with, or finished with rather, not too long ago. And another is a more recent one that we've worked with. And the purpose of this in particular is to show you that you can have the same information or very similar information, but displayed a different way, and it makes a huge difference in terms of the user appeal and the user experience. So I've blocked out virtually all the information that relates to this practice, not so I don't identify them, and not to make sure that they, potentially couldn't be embarrassed by having a website that was a little bit archaic, essentially. But when we look at this, what's bad, what's good? Well, it had a lot of good information on there. So it had the locations. It's got the Southwest office. It's got a Northwest office. It's got the hours of operation. It's got the locations. It's got services right up here. It has contact information, which is blocked out. It's got a logo. So it's got a lot of that very basic information that we talked about, but at the same time, it's not really user appealing. So what are things that we need to improve upon? Well, this website, first off, it was not mobile responsive. So we needed to make it something that looked good on a cell phone, something that a patient would actually want to look at and wouldn't get confused by all the information that was being presented. And we need to have a good user experience because there's really a lot going on when you look at this front page. When you view a website currently, you really want your eyes to be drawn to one thing in particular and then to kind of scroll on down from there. When you go to this website, personally, the first thing I see, which is it's probably current promotions. My pointer's not working. There we go. So current promotions, and which is good because you're kind of highlighting different sales and specials that you're offering. But from there, you want to have a systematic fashion in terms of how your website is offering the information for your patients. In contrast, I want to show you this website. Now, this is not a website that I actually developed myself. Whenever you have a website built, oftentimes it's built with a theme that's consistent. So these themes can be generic themes. This is one that I actually found not too long ago that's an optometry or eye care based theme. So this is all custom made and basically right there for you from the get-go. But once again, I want to focus on what's good and what's bad on the website. Well, first off, does it have location information? Yeah, it certainly does. It's got the location right here. It's got the hours of operation. It has the social media icons, which the last website did as well. It has the services that you're offered in a nice clear heading. Now, what are the other things that it have that makes it really good? Well, the things that I'm really drawn to are probably right here, which is the call for inquiry. Now, obviously, in many cases, we're going to change the wording of this and we'd make it something like schedule appointment or call for appointment. But you see how your eyes are drawn down to those colors that are contrasting? These are the things called CTA or call to action buttons that are really good to have on a website. Now, when you look at this website, this is only a screenshot right now, so I can't show it to you live, unfortunately. But when you scroll down, there are different components of it, and the website looks really good on a mobile device or a tablet. Any sort of mobile device that you really have, it looks really clean and crisp on. So those were the basics that we talked about. Now, what if you actually want a really, really good website or one that your patients will actually use and want to go to? You need to do some more advanced stuff. Now, things that we'll talk about briefly. Secure site. This is pretty important. Secure site, or SSL, stands for Secure Socket Layer. TLS stands for Transport Layer Security. And basically when you see that website that says HTTPS, that means it has that TLS installed. Basically a lot of fancy terms for meaning your website is secure. Okay. Now, secure site is pretty important, especially if you offer any sort of online communication or if you offer any sort of online purchasing. So if somebody is they're selling contacts online or glasses online, you better be sure that you have a SSL on your website, because otherwise the information that is being submitted, whether it be credit card information and so forth, that can be interrupted and found through online hackers. I'll give you one quick example. I went to schedule a party for my son not too long ago, and I went to their website. It was one of these places for kids' bounce parties and so forth. And I went to go pay, and sure enough, they didn't have an SSL. I would not go on that website because I'm not going to give them my credit card information when they don't have an SSL, and they lost my business because of that. Now we ended up doing it on in person later on, and it worked out fine. But that was something that really detracted from my experience online that I wanted to see changed. So if you want to do once again, if you want to have a better website, you can do e-commerce, which is kind of the glasses and the contact lens sales that we talked about. Online scheduling is a really, really big one, and that's something that I think is a lot more prevalent nowadays with our newer EHRs, stuff like Demand Force, Solution Reach, Revolution. I'm not an expert by any means on the EHR differentials, but a lot of the newer programs offer online scheduling, which is really convenient for the patients because, frankly, people don't want to talk to each other. Let's put it out there for what it is. If I have the option to schedule an appointment online and to be guaranteed a spot, I'm going to pick that over calling an office any single day of the week. It's good to have social media for your website. Now, the social media platforms that you utilize, it really depends on your patient population. If you have a patient population full of teenagers, then what are you going to use? you're going to be picking Snapchat, you'll be picking Tumblr, you'll be picking all these other platforms that are really prevalent for kids and for teenagers. The reality of it is that people that are spending the money in your practice, though, are going to be working professionals. They're going to be patients that are maybe between the ages of 22 and 55 or 65 or so. So you want to typically use your social media platforms that are going to be more prevalent for those populations. Typically, I find that Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram are probably the big three that people really like.